Welcome back to Namaste Node.js. In the previous video, we saw that how we can write JS code inside a file, app.js, and then execute it inside Node, inside the JavaScript runtime environment, that is Node.js, isn't it? We saw that we have to write a command node app.js, and then we can execute this file. Execute all the code of this file using this one single command. But we cannot just keep writing all our code into a single file. That's not logically possible. Actually, it is possible. You can just write all your Node.js code into a single file. You can dump all the code into app.js also. But logically, we don't do it. When we create a project, we create multiple files, multiple folders, and then we can manage different type of files in a separate folder. And there is a folder structure and a directory structure involved. There are multiple files which are used to build our whole project, isn't it? So how do you create those files? And there's an important concept of modules, which I am going to talk very soon right now. So suppose if your code is not just in one app.js file, suppose if there is one more new file, let's call this as xyz.js, okay? There is a separate file and there is some JavaScript code over here also, okay? So JavaScript code, and let us just write a very important JS code, okay? And then we also want to include this code when we run app.js, right? How do we run? So basically, see, whenever you have a Node.js application, there is one entry point in your application. That entry point is the file that you give over here. This is the entry point, node app.js. Okay, this is the entry point. But what if there are code in some other files also? How will it be executed? Suppose if I wanted this code to also execute with this being the entry point, how do I execute that code? These two code are not related somehow, right? These two code are very separate in some separate files, right? So basically in Node.js, you can call this as this is XYZ is a separate module. It's a separate module. So how do you make two modules work together? The famous answer to this is a require function. Okay, there's a function which is just used to require other modules into your main module. Okay, so let me just show it to you. First of all, let me get rid of all this, right? I think, or maybe just the comments, right? I have got rid of these comments because I don't want those comments. And what we will do is now we will require. So you can do require. We can give it a path, right? How do you give it a path? It is in the same directory. So I can give /, that means the same directory, and I can give xyz.js. Okay, xyd.js. Now, when I do this, when I save my file, now if I run node app.js, do you see this? Do you see this, my dear friends? Very important JS code also ran. So basically, when I did require, so what happened? So first of all, Node.js thought that, okay, this is a require statement. That means I need to require this file inside my code, isn't it? So basically, whatever the code is there in XYZ file, that needs to be run first. Then I will execute this piece of code. Okay, so first of all, it just ran this code and then this code ran the later on, right? So first of all, when you run this file, so this file will run, and then after that, all this will run. Right? That is why it said very important JS code and then true. True means this. True is coming from this line. So this is how you include or import a module inside another module, right? So basically what I did, I created a new module XYZ. I included that inside app.js, including a module inside another module. This is how you do it using this require function. Now, require function is available to us anywhere in our in our Node.js code. Whenever you run any program using Node.js, require function is always available, right? It is always available. Just like global is there, similarly require is also there. So you can just require any file or any module inside another module. Basically, one module into another. One module into another, right? If you want to call another module into another, this is how you Do it, my dear friends. Now let us just improve our example. Let me show you one more use case. Okay, so now you understood, right? XYZ you can include like this. But what if, suppose over here we have two variables, sum A and B. Suppose if I want to calculate sum of these two numbers, A and B, how would I do that? And suppose if I want to create a new module, let's call this as sum.js. Okay, so it calculates the sum, and over here I have a function calculate sum. Okay, calculate sum, right? And then it calculates the sum of these two numbers. Let's call this as A comma B. Got it? So now I want to calculate the sum of these two numbers. Okay, and over here, let us just write constant sum is equals to A plus B. And then we have calculated the sum. So what it will do is it will console log the sum. Okay. So what happens is when I call this function, whenever I will call this function, it will just print the sum of these two numbers on the console. How would I do that? So can I just write this calculate sum? Just a minute. I think I have misspelled it. Calculate. Okay. Cool. So now can I use this function inside my app.js file? This is what I want to say. Can I use this function with A comma B over here? Can I use this now? Because see, what will happen? The require method will call all this, and then you can just calculate the sum over here. Isn't it? It's very simple. Makes sense, isn't it? But no, my dear friends, it will not work. This is the problem which I am trying to say. A lot of people don't know about this, is that it will not work like this. If you try to run this code, just see what happens. Just see what happens. It says calculate sum is not defined. Now, I am telling you, a lot of Node developers does not know that what happened behind the scenes. How is it possible? Right? So basically, see, whenever you write a require statement, what happened? XYZ, okay. Now suppose if I do over here, I required XYZ. What if I require the sum.js file? Will it work now? Okay. Will it work now? Tell me. Will it work now? See, earlier we had xyz.js. It will not work because it's a separate module. But I have required so basically before I am running this code, the code over here will already run, right? So let me just console log to prove it out, right? Let us just console log to prove it. Some module executed. Okay, so if I do this, now do you think I can access this calculate sum like this over here now? What is your answer? Let me just run it and you will be surprised to know it will not work. It will not work. But if you will see clearly, what happened? First of all, we did require xyz.js. So it printed very important JS code, right? From this. This code was executed. Now we require sum.js. This code was executed, right? And some module executed is printed over here. After that, it ran the whole code. Then it went over here and started running all this code. But still this calculate sum is not available over here, right? Calculate sum is not available. Why? Lot of Node developers don't know about this. Why? What happened behind the scenes? What happened? Let me tell you, whenever you create a separate module, and you require that module, this code will run. But you cannot access the variables and methods and functions of one module into another simply by requiring it. You cannot directly access calculate sum in app.js. You cannot use this. You cannot do this. You cannot. Modules are created, right? This module protects. Okay, so let me write it down also. Important, keep a note of this. Modules are protected by default, right? Module protects protects their variables and functions to from leaking. So basically, if suppose you have created this module, you cannot access the variables and functions over there. Suppose if there was a variable, let's call this as x is equals to hello world. Okay, hello world, right? Suppose if we have this x, you cannot access this x or calculate sum in your app.js directly. No, it will not happen, my dear friends. Now, modules by default protects it. But suppose if I want to give access of calculate sum to this file, how would I do that? For that, I will have to export this function from this file and then import that function into another file. Do you understand it? Export this function, I'll have to intentionally do that. By default, the modules are protected, right? By default, the modules are protected. Modules protect their variables and functions from leaking by default. You cannot just, just use calculate sum over here. No, you cannot do that. Okay, so I'll just show it to you. How do you do that? Suppose if I want to give access to calculate sum over here, so you have to explicitly export it. How do you export it? You use a object which is known as module.exports, right? And now whatever you have to export, you can just give it over here. Suppose if I want to export my calculate sum over here, I can give access of calculate sum to some other place. Now over here, it will still not work. Why? Because where did I get access, right? Suppose I have exported this, I'll have to import that also. So how do you import it? You import it like this, okay? You calculate sum, okay? Calculate sum is equals to calculate, okay? Let me spell it correctly. Okay, so we have got this calculate sum. So whatever you will export over here will be returned from this require function. Okay, will be returned from this calculate require function over here, right? So basically this calculate sum was returned, exported. Now this export will come over here in calculate sum. And now you can do calculate sum over here, and if you'll run, you will see that 30 is printed. You will see that there is no error now. We can access 30 over here. Do you understand that? Let me just explain it to you once again. Suppose if we have a sum function, you need to first export something from here. And remember, this is not export, it's exports. Right? A lot of people who are coming from front end might have a habit of writing export without S. But over here we have a S at the end of export. It's module.exports. Okay? So remember this, module.exports, and then you have to import it over here. This is how you import things. Suppose if you had to export X as well as calculate sum, how would you do that? How would you export both? So basically, a way to export that is by wrapping it inside an object, right? Wrapping it inside an object, okay? You create a new object and call this as, it has a method and a property x, and then calculate sum. You create a object over here, right? So this is how you create an object, and then you can export it. Now, this same object will be coming over here, right? So this is calculate sum. You can calculate obj over here. This object will come over here, right? This object will come over here. Now you can do obj dot calculate sum. Now you can just do obj dot calculate sum over here, right? And suppose if you also wanted to console log obj dot x, because we exported that too, you can do this also, object obj dot x. Now I can export multiple things like this, right? Now I can export multiple things like this. And if I run this code, let me just run this code, node app.js, and you will see it says 30 and hello world. Okay, so we have seen how do you create a new file. That new file is known as a module. Now in a module, you can not, if you run the require over here, if you run this require over here, this code will be executed. But you cannot access the private variables and the functions of this code into your app.js. You cannot, it does not leak it. Suppose if you want to use it, if you want to use private variables and function, you need to export it. You need to export it. And once you export it, you will get that returned from this require statement, right? Whatever you have exported from sum.js will come as a return from over here require, right? And then you can run it like this. This was the summary. Now let me also show you some people in a lot of places, in a lot of code, when you will write in your Node.js repositories, you will find a pattern something like this, okay? So over here, this is known as destructuring on the fly. Some people don't write obj over here like this, but they do destructuring on the fly. This is known as, if you don't know about destructuring, then please go ahead and read JavaScript. That's not a Node.js thing, that's a JavaScript core thing. Please read about it. This is known as object destructuring. Okay. So now basically you have just sent x and calculate sum over here. Now I can get this x and calculate sum. Now you no longer need to write obj dot everywhere, right? You don't have to write obj dot. Now you can directly access calculate sum and x like this. Okay. So if I run this code, it will work smoothly once again. Okay, so this is how you do it. You will find this pattern used in a lot of places, in a lot of code. That is why I'm telling you it's very common. You don't have to always do obj dot or something like that. One more thing is you can create, when you are exporting it, you can create an object like this, but this is an old way. If you don't write this colon and in front of it, you just give it. So basically now JavaScript itself will assume that x colon x, it's a shorthand. It's basically same as writing this, right? You don't have to write this. So it's a clean and neat pattern, and you will see this written in a lot of code, right? So I have seen this written in a lot of code. You will see written like this. Okay. So basically this sum.js is exporting x and calculate sum, right? X and calculate sum, and app.js is including x and calculate sum. Got it? So this is how you will find code, but behind the scenes, what is happening, right? Right? This is why, I want to show you all the patterns, because if you will go and write code into a Node.js repository, there you will find these patterns in the code. I want you to be a good developer. You should know what is needed to be done on production. You don't generally keep on doing that obj dot and all that stuff there. Right? Neither you keep on doing x colon x, calculate sum colon calculate sum and all. No, you no need to do that. You can just directly write like this, my dear friends. Okay. So this is how you do it. Now this is how you access it. The important learning that for us was that from a module, you cannot access its private variable and functions outside unless the module wants it to be. And trust me, my dear friends, this is a very, very, very powerful concept. Why it's very powerful? Some developers feel that, okay, it would have been easier if we don't had to export always. Just give access over there. Because the other modules have their own private space is a very big superpower. Suppose, and it protects your variable. Suppose in your app.js, you want to create a variable name x. Okay. Suppose you wanted to create a variable name x. So what happens is it will conflict with the other modules, isn't it? It will conflict with other modules. So to avoid that conflict, we keep the, modules are protecting their private variable and functions. Right? So you can create your own x in a way, right? You just have to use x. Just use x from your file and don't care about the x which is there on some other module. Suppose if I am writing the code app.js, I don't care whether x is there in sum.js or not. I am creating my new file, right? Suppose if I do x100, then I can just execute it. X will be 100. We are no longer related to this module. Whatever this needs to done, right? If sum.js has to do something with X, it can does it, right? But app.js does not have to do anything with X, so we did not import it from here, right? If we don't need it from there, we won't import it, and we can reuse the same variable also. Okay, so it protects the space. Hope you are taking down notes. If you're not taking down notes, please, I would suggest again to keep taking down notes. Now, the time is to pause the video at this point. Go ahead in your code, in your laptop, just do whatever I did till now. Try to play with the code. It is very interesting because you always have to follow this pattern. There will be so many files and so many modules.export, so many require that you should be very good at it. Okay, so this is what I wanted to show you. Now, before moving ahead, one last thing I want to show is that if suppose you don't write a .js extension over here, that works as well. This works as well, and it will be properly working. If you don't write an extension over here, it is considered that you are using a .js extension. It is considered that you are using a .js extension over here. Okay, so now we have seen how do you import and export from a different module to another module. Go practice this code in your system. Now, once you come again, I will show you another module pattern which is followed, and it will be very much fun. Please go ahead, do this till now, and then come back, and then we will learn more. Okay, see you very soon. Welcome back, my dear friends. Now we have seen this pattern of importing and exporting, right? This require and module.exports over here. This pattern is known as common JS modules. Okay, this type of modules are known as common JS modules. Okay, I'll just show you. Let me write it down. It is very important. Common JS modules, or you can also call this as CJS, right? So this is what we used, and there is one more thing which is known as ES modules, right? And it is also known as MJS. I'll show you what is ES modules. Okay, so just like we used module.exports, over here we used what? Let me just write it down. Over here we use module.exports, and then we used require function. Okay, so similarly, there is another pattern that is used that is known as ES modules. And let me also show you how we do that. Okay, in another form of first of all, let me tell you, you have to create a new file over here, package.json. Now, why we are creating this file? What is this, right? Assume that this is a configuration file for now. I will explain you more about package.json in upcoming videos. Don't worry about that. But for now, just understand this is kind of like a configuration. To enable, so basically by default, common JS module is enabled, right? But suppose if you want to use ES module pattern, so how do you do that? You have to write something known as type and then module. Okay, type and then module. So see, there are two things you can write. If you write common JS, this is by default which is being used. Okay, by default, if you don't have a package.json, this is what is happening. But suppose if I write it as type module, right? If I write it a type module, now this is a different way of importing and exporting modules. Okay, so basically now all these modules are treated in a different way. Now in ES module, in this module MJS system, you don't export like this. How do you export? Let me show you how do you export. You basically export something like this. Okay, let me just show it to you. Let me comment this down. Basically in this, there are two ways. So you can just export this function like this. Export function, right? You have to write the keyword export over here. You write export function calculate sum, and now this export sum function, and over here you import, right? How will you import this calculate sum? Let me just show it to you. Comment it down. I'll show it to you. Import calculate sum from my sum.js. Okay, so this is how you import. If you run the code once again, it says require is not defined in ES module scope where, okay, I am writing xyd.js right now, require is no longer available for us, right? So what I am trying to say is now it should work, right? Now it should work properly. Cool. So it worked again, right? 30, 100. So what I am trying to summarize is, let me just summarize once again. So there are two types of module pattern which is being followed. The first one is common JS module, right? Common JS module. Over here we use module.export and require. In ES module pattern, we use import and export statements. Import and export statements. Okay, this is by default used in Node. By default, if you don't change it, this is the pattern which is used in Node, right? This is, if you have seen this import export, this is by default used in a lot of other frameworks and libraries like React, by default used in React, Angular and all. React, Angular and all. Okay, so how it happens is, let me just recap once again. So what happens? So in the sum.js, how do you export? You export it like this. Export function calculate sum. And how do you import it? Import calculate sum from sum.js. Got it? So this is how you do. Suppose if you have to export multiple, how do you export multiple? You can write export over here also, right? Export var x. And over here you can also write x comma, right? And then you can just remove this x over here. And then if you save it, now the x will come from my sum.js file and it will print hello world. See this, hello world is printed. So this pattern is known as ES modules, or some people also call this as ESM, right? ES modules, ESM. And this is also known as MJS and CJS. Got it? So this is used. Now, this common JS modules is the older way of doing things. This is a newer way. And you know what? JavaScript committee, right? The OpenJS Foundation is now saying that going forward, ES modules will be the standard way of importing and exporting modules, right? This will become the standard way going forward. But my dear friends, in this course, we will be highly using common JS modules, because right now almost all the Node.js repositories use this pattern. And in Node.js, this require and module.export is a very big thing, right? Basically, this is very common. So that is why I don't want to go and start using this, because it's not a pattern which is being followed in industry, right? In the industry, still you will find common JS module pattern being used, and I will always use module.export and require. But I want, as a teacher, want my students to know that there is some other module system, which is ES module. It is a newer module. Maybe going forward in 1 or 2 years, 3 years, 10 years down the line, nobody will be writing common JS module and everybody will be shifting to ES modules, right? This can happen. But for me, right now, my job is to tell you all, but I will be using this way. The module.export and the require statements, that is the way we will be using, and that is the way everybody uses still in the industry. Okay, so let's go back to our older fashion, right? But I wanted to give you this information. I could have skipped, right? I could have skipped, but I don't want to skip this. I want to give you all the knowledge which I have. Let's go back to our require statements, because this is a very common thing and this is how we do it, right? And now I can do this and I can just import it from here, and let's go back to our old common JS module system. Okay, how? Oh my God, okay. I have not removed it from here. Basically, you can just write common JS over here. This will also work. Cool, this worked, right? Or you can just remove it also. You don't need package.json now, because I am using the default version, which is CJS, which is common JS module system. Got it? Now, there is one more major difference between CommonJS and ES modules, right? Let me just write it down also. It's a very important. When CommonJS is requiring the modules, when CommonJS is requiring these modules, it does it in a synchronous way. Synchronous calls. Synchronous means the next line of code will only be executed once this require happens. So basically it kind of like blocks for a while. Until and unless this sum.js or xyz.js is loaded, this code will not move ahead. But in this way, we have an option for async. Async option is there, right? You can do in a async fashion also. And this is very powerful, my dear friends. This is very powerful. It's a newer way and it's a better way of importing modules, right? Async available, right? Async way, right? And it is synchronous way by default. Got it? So you should know this. It's very, very important for you to know this. This can be asked in your interviews also, a difference between CommonJS modules and ES modules. So it's a newer way of doing this. Some people also call this as ES6 modules, right? ES6 modules. You can just read about it. Last and the very important difference between the two is, after synchronous and asynchronous, is that in CommonJS, it is the code is run in non-strict mode. And in ES modules, the code is run in strict mode. Strict mode is default. Got it? So ES modules is better, but it's a newer way also. But we still use CommonJS. It's very, very, very popular. So that is why we will be using this. And it's run in non-strict mode. It's run in strict mode. It is synchronous. It is asynchronous. It is the older way. It is the newer way. By default used in Node.js. Node.js it is very popular. Very, very popular. Okay, and it is the same pattern being used since the Node.js was developed. Okay, and over here, this is by default used in React Angular. If you are a front-end developer, you would already know that you use this pattern of import and export. Over here, we do module.export and require. Okay, so now one more thing which I want to tell you is that this is run in strict mode and non-strict mode. Shall I show you the demo? Okay, let me just show you the demo. So in non-strict mode, okay, so suppose if you write something like this, okay, if you write the name or let's say some variable name, okay, let's say variable name is Z, okay, Z is equals to hello world, okay, and you don't write a var, let, const, anything in front of it. So this will be successfully executed. See this, right? Clear? This code will be successfully executed. See this. It did not give an error because we are using CommonJS module by default. But this would have given error if we were using our ESM module pattern. Okay, so let me just show it to you. Oh shit, package.json. Let me just quickly shift over there. Type module, right? And let me give it a type module over here. And then let me just quickly revert back and comment this. And let me comment this. And let me save it. And if I go back over here, if I have to write export over here, export, and then I will write export, right? And if I run this file, and let me remove this module.exports, okay? If I run this file and went back to this module pattern, it says Z is not defined. Did you understand this? It says Z is not defined. It is kind of running in a strict mode. It is running in a strict mode. In strict mode, you cannot define variables without writing var, let, or const, right? This is a very common example. If suppose why I am showing you all this, suppose your interviewer asks you, then you don't have to worry. You will just have to open your terminal, open the file and give an example to your interviewer and he will understand that you know it thoroughly, how it works behind the scenes and what is the clear difference between them, right? So going back to the common JS module pattern, okay, going back to the common JS module pattern. So let me go back to common JS module pattern, and this is what we will run. And over here in this common JS module pattern, you can even write it without a var. It will work perfectly fine. Got it? So this is a proof for it. Try it out, right, in your system. Pause the video, try it out in your system. Now, going forward, right, once you will be back after trying this out, going forward, we will learn new things. I will show you that suppose if you have multiple files, you can create multiple folder structures using this, and a lot more things will be there. Come back very soon, and I will see you very, very soon, my dear friends. Go back to your laptop, practice it, and then come back, take down your notes, update your notes, and then come back once again. I'll see you very soon. Welcome back, my dear friends. Now, hope you would have done this in your code. Let us now move ahead. And now I will tell you one more important thing, one more interesting thing, right? So one more thing which came to my mind was, sometimes see, you do module.export like this. Telling you that important concept, I will show you that what is module.export. What is module.export? Module.exports, okay? What is it actually, right? Before even we have written equal to object, now it has become an object. Before that, what is it, right? So if I console.log, you will see that module.export is an empty object. So this module.export is an empty object, my dear friends. Okay. So one more pattern that you will see in your code is that this is an object. So instead of doing module.export equal to this, some people also prefer to write like this. Okay. They write like this: module.export.x is equals to x. Module.exports dot calculate sum is equals to calculate sum. It is like, see, earlier module.export was an empty object. So now you are attaching these properties to the same object. Got it? So either you can do this or you can revert back to the older way. Okay. Both will work very fine. Okay, either you can do this or you can write it this fashion, right? Both of them are fine, right? So let me just run and show it to you once again. If I run and show it to you, it works the same way. No change in the results. See, why I am telling you all this is because I never know. There are so many students watching this video, and these patterns are all over followed across the industry, right? So you never know which project you get into, and then in some project you will find that pattern, and then you will be confused. Oh my God, Akshay did not teach us. Akshay taught us Node.js, and what is this? I am not able to understand. See, you don't even need me to understand this. This is basic concept of a normal, a normal JavaScript concept. But what I am trying to say is, when this module is loaded, this module.export is empty object. This is the information which a lot of people don't have. So that is why you are able to use this pattern also, because it's an empty object. Okay, this is the information which I wanted to give. Hope you would have understood it. Now let us move ahead quickly, right? I am going very slow, I feel. Now let us just distribute. Suppose if I want to, now I will show you one more important pattern, or I will show you nested modules, right? Suppose if I want to nest modules, right? Module inside a module inside a module, something like this. A very common pattern that you will file while structuring your code is this pattern, okay? So suppose let's create a folder now, and inside our folder we have this calculate, right? And then inside we will have different type of calculate function. This is sum, okay? And I have moved it inside my calculate folder. Now similarly inside my calculate, let us also create one multiply, right? Multiply. This will multiply two numbers. Multiply.js. Okay, just like we have calculate sum over here, we will have calculate multiply over here, right? Can I write it down quickly? Let me just write it down. Calculate multiply. multiplication, right? Calculate multiplication. Okay, let me write calculate multiply only. Okay, and then there are two numbers, and what I will do is constant result is equals to a into b, and then what I will do, I will just do a console.log of result. Got it? We have got this calculate.multiply. Now what I will do, I will do a module.exports. Always remember this pattern. Whenever you are doing this, you will have to do a module.exports, right? Module.exports, calculate multiply from this function. Got it? We will get this calculate multiply from this function. Okay, now we have done this. Suppose it is inside my calculate. Now what I can do is, suppose if I wanted to multiply both of them also. So how would I do that? Very easy. Constant calculate multiply is equals to require, and inside require I will just give it this, right? Calculate multiply.js. Okay, now this is how you do it. Now remember that over here I am just directly returning it. So I am over here directly importing it, right? I am not doing object destructuring over here, right? Very careful, because see, the export over here is direct. It's not an object. So over here also I am doing the same way, right? And I would request you all to follow one pattern. Okay, follow one pattern. Either you all, generally this pattern is very common, that always whenever you are doing this module.export, always wrap it inside an object. It is very easy for us to understand, because see, if you will write this code, it will be very confusing whether it is an object or whether it is directly exported. So always this pattern is very good to follow. Just follow it like this, and this will help you, right? So calculate multiply came in. Now if I do calculate multiply over here, calculate multiply and then give it AB and then run this code. So you will see that we have got 30 and we have got 200. 20 into 10 is 200, which is coming from here. Got it? So this is how you basically create two multiple files inside a folder. One more common pattern that you will see is, suppose, see, now when you create a folder inside a folder, there is a collection of module also which can happen. And one more pattern I will show is, suppose this is a calculate. Suppose this is a calculate folder. Now I want to make this folder as a module in itself, right? I will show you how you can create this as a module. You can just create a new file and call it as index.js inside the folder. In this index.js, what you will do is, you will kind of import, you will kind of require these to multiply and sum. Okay. So what you will do, just keep seeing what I am doing, right? You do calculate multiply, and then what you do, calculate multiply, which is coming from require and then from dot slash multiply. And similarly, you can do a constant calculate sum, right? Calculate sum, which is coming from calculate sum function. No, sorry, my bad. Sum file, right? This will come from sum file. Do you see? We have calculate multiply, which is coming from this dot slash multiply file, this export. And over here, sum, it is coming from here, right? So we have got these two over here. Now what I will do, I will just do export, and I will just export my calculate multiply and calculate sum from here. Okay, and now you know what I did? Now you must be thinking, what Akshay, this looks very weird. What we did is, from multiply and sum, we exported these calculate multiply and calculate sum, and now in the index.js I am just exporting it, right? I am just not exporting it, sorry. I should do module.exports. My bad. I am just mixing up the patterns. Okay, I will do module.exports and I am exporting these two files. Now what I will do in the app.js, what I will do, instead of writing all of this, instead of requiring it from multiple different files, what I can do, I can just require my calculate sum and calculate multiply from my require calculate folder. Got it? So now I no longer need all of this. I can just get my calculate sum and calculate multiply from my calculate folder. Okay, so if I go over here, run it up, calculate sum is not a function. Why? I think I misspelled it somewhere. Right? Did I misspell it somewhere? Yes, I think over here I misspelled it. Calculate sum and also calculate sum here. Right? Sum here, right? If I do calculate sum over here, now if I go to app.js, I save the file, run it once again, it runs perfectly fine. And let me also tell you, my dear friends, you don't even have to write this index over here. You just have to write this calculate and index will automatically be taken care of. If I run my code, it works perfectly fine. So see this, when there are multiple files, but you would see that, okay, you would say that, Akshay, why are we doing all these illogical things, right? It's just messing up our head. I'll tell you why. See, when you have a lot of files, suppose hundreds of files, there are hundreds of functions in every file has so many other functions, so many things. So you basically try to group together these three files and create a separate module out of it. You try to group together 2-3 files and create a separate module out of it. You create a folder structure. So basically, right now in this code, for app.js, this calculate folder is a new module, right? This calculate folder itself is a new module. And we don't know. And you don't even have to know behind the scene, inside calculate, what is the implementation going on? How you have, see, app.js do not have to know how calculate folder structure its file. See, app.js don't need to know that internally how does calculate distributes its files. Suppose if the calculate function can write both of these function into same file. Suppose if these two function are coming internally from different files. Right? So basically app.js has an abstraction which it knows that, okay, there is a calculate folder, right? Calculate folder or calculate module, and this module is giving us two functions. Now behind the scenes inside calculate, it is again having two multiple files, and then from here you are exporting it. But what we have done is inside this calculate, whenever you create a folder and you create a index.js file over here, and whatever you export from here, whatever you export from the index.js file of this folder, that export can be imported like this. That export can be imported like this over here. Got it? This is a very powerful pattern you will see all across the industry. If you have not understood this pattern, please, I would request you to go back to the video, watch it once again, go back to video, watch it once again, but be sure that before moving ahead in further episodes, you understand this pattern clearly. Let me quickly revise it once again. What I did was I just moved my sum and multiply file inside it, right? I just created a sum file here, and let me also remove this x and all so that it just does not become a confusion, right? Let me remove this console.log also, or let me keep it, or just let me comment it down maybe, right? So basically, see, in this folder, what I am doing is I'm just having one function and I have exported it. I don't want to export anything else. I've just exported this calculate. In multiply file, we have calculate multiply. Now I have made a collection of my function. Suppose if there is a subtract function also, suppose there is a divide function also, right? So you can create multiple files, and all these files are basically merging into this index.js file, right? And then app.js is just talking to my calculate folder now. It does not matter. App.js does not even need to know the full file location. See, calculate sum is inside sum.js. App.js file does not need to even know the exact location of this sum.js file now. It's a very powerful pattern. This is how you structure your folders, and this is how things work. Okay, so I am just clearing off my code. Let me just clear my code. Okay, so this is a very powerful pattern. Use it, right? Use it up. And what I am telling you is that practice it in your system, because this is very, very important. And this, you will find this all across, right? You will see a folder and then there's an index file and then it is exporting everything and all that stuff, right? So always try to do this. This is how you group files. This was very important. This is why I showed you all this. Otherwise, let us just see one last thing. Suppose you require from a .js file like this. Suppose if you had a JSON file, right? Suppose if you had a data.json file. Okay. Suppose if you have a data.json file, how do you import this data from JSON file? This is what I wanted to show you. Name, and let's say we have this JSON file and the name is Akshay Seni, and then there is a, let's say over here we have city, and then in the city we have Dehradun, right? Dehradun. Okay, so this is how you have, right? And then there is a country, there is a country. How do you import a JSON file? This is what I am showing you. It's very easy. It's a no-brainer, but I want to show you because tomorrow you might need it. So if it's very common that we create JSON files also. Suppose if I want to import the JSON into my app.js. So basically it's very easy. You'll just have to do a data is equals to require, and then you can write data.json, right? You can write data.json, and then you can just do a console log of data. Okay, console.log of data, console.log of json.stringify data. Yes, you can do json.stringify data. Okay, so let's just do, right? X is not defined. Okay, I think X is not defined. Where are we using X? Okay, this console log, because I am no longer importing X. Cool. So we have got this JSON over here, right? If you don't do stringify also, that also works, right? Obviously it will work. So you don't have to, it just auto added data.json. And if you do it, you will see that, okay, we have this JSON printed onto our console. Got it? So this is how you import JSON. This is the last thing I wanted to tell you. You can use require to import JSON. You can use require to import folder, right? The modules inside a folder. Now this calculate is a module in itself. And then you can also create separate files and you can require it. So powerful, right? This require function is so powerful. And then, there are multiple. So right now we have seen that how to import JSON, how to import other modules. There are some modules which are present inside the core of Node.js. Core of Node.js, right? There is a module which is known as util, right? require, require util, right? So how do you import it? You don't have to give a file name. You do something like this, node util, right? This util module, and this util module gives you access to a object, util object, and this util object has a lot of important functions and properties. See this. You can do a util.debug, util.format, util.inheritance, inherits, util.inspect, util.promesify, parsargs, and so many things. So what I'm trying to say, there are multiple. See, module is just a separate piece of JavaScript code, which is a very separate file, right? That you can assume as a module. Modules can be your single file. See, multiply.js is also a module. This calculate folder is also kind of like a module, right? This calculate folder is also a module. See, module, to identify, I don't even know the formal definition of module, but if you ask me what is module, module is basically a collection of code, right? Collection of JavaScript code, which is private to itself, right? It's a JavaScript code which is private to itself. It exists separately. It exists independently of any other program. So what I mean is calculate is different, app is different, and then inside calculate also multiply is different, sum is different. So module is nothing but a collection of JavaScript code which is separate and private to itself. That's it. And if you want to like input something, if you want to expose something from a module, then you will have to use module.exports. Okay, module.exports is the only way to export things. There are multiple ways also. There is something known as exports also, but module.export is the only way that is there, right, to export anything from your module, right? So this is what I wanted to show you. My throat is aching now. It's been a long while. I'm speaking since more than an hour now. So hope you would have understood everything. Pause the video. Practice it very soon. We have seen a lot of things in this video. Practice everything right now. In the next video, you will just pull your hairs, because we are going to dive deep into how this require works behind the scenes, how this module.exports work behind the scenes. We will dive into the Node.js GitHub repository and see the code of Node.js. Yes, my dear friends, I will actually show you that where is this require function written inside Node.js repository. I will show you. Your mind will be blown when you will see the next video. I will make you fall in love with Node.js, as in when you are going ahead with this, you will see the beauty of Node.js, that how it executes the code, and so many things are there. If you are liking this series, if you are liking whatever I am teaching, if you are liking these in-depth tutorials, please give me a shout out on social media. Please write about Node.js, share it with your friends, family, with your network over social media. You can write a LinkedIn post or Twitter post to appreciate us, talk about Node.js. You can also share your learnings from this episode in a post on LinkedIn or Twitter. Please do that. Please spread a word. Please give us a shout out on Node.js. It will help us reach more and more developers, and my mission is to teach as many developers as I can, and I will do it, my dear friends, and I need your help in that. Please share it on social media. It's very, very powerful, and thank you so much for watching this video. In the next video, you will be amazed with more new concepts, and see you in the next video, my dear friends. Till then, bye-bye. Thanks for watching.